Have you ever looked up at the sky and thought, what birds are flying above me that I've never noticed? Sure, everyone knows the bald eagle. But what if I told you there are dozens of birds living right here in the USA, so colorful, so strange, so rare, that most people have never even heard of them? Welcome to a hidden world. This is 30 birds of the USA you've probably never seen before, from neon feathered flycatchers to owls that vanish into tree bark, from birds that sing in the night to those that dance like spirits on the wind. These creatures exist. They're real, and they're all around us. We just don't see them until now. So sit back and prepare to be surprised. If you enjoy discovering nature's hidden wonders, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend who loves birds. And hey, if we accidentally left out your favorite rare bird, let us know in the comments below. We're always listening, and your suggestions help us make every video better. Ready to meet the birds you've probably never seen before? Let's begin. Now that we've opened the door to this hidden world, let's begin with something you won't forget. The birds that look like they came out of a dream. Some are so brightly colored, they seem painted by hand. Others have shapes, feathers, or eyes that look like they don't belong on Earth. This is the start of our journey into strange looks and hidden colors. If a rainbow ever turned into a bird, this would be it. The painted bunting is often described as the most beautiful bird in North America, and it's not hard to see why. The male is a burst of impossible color, a sapphire blue head, a flame red chest, and a lime green back that shimmers in the sunlight. It looks more like something imagined in a dream than born in the wild. But here's the strange part. For such a breathtaking bird, it's incredibly shy. Painted buntings live in dense underbrush, tangled thickets, and overgrown hedges in the southeastern United States, especially in Texas, Florida, and Georgia. They prefer to stay low, hopping between shadows, and rarely venturing out into the open. Most people living in the same state as these birds have never actually seen one. They're small, about the size of a sparrow, and the females are completely different. Soft olive green, without any of the rainbow colors. It's the males that catch the eye, but only if they let you. Their song is a gentle, warbling tune. Not loud, not showy, just enough to let you know, I'm here if you're paying attention. And maybe that's the magic of the painted bunting. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be rare. It just needs a moment and the right light to remind you that beauty can still surprise you. Most woodpeckers hammer into trees like tiny machines, but this one, it glides. Meet the Lewis's woodpecker, a bird that breaks all the rules. While other woodpeckers cling to trunks and drill for insects, Lewis's prefers to fly like a swallow, swooping through the air with slow, graceful wing beats. It's named after explorer Meriwether Lewis, who first recorded it during the famous Lewis and Clark expedition in 1805. And more than 2 centuries later, it still manages to surprise scientists and bird lovers alike. Its colors are just as unusual as its flight. A deep green back, a rosy pink belly, and a gray collar around its face, all set against glossy black wings. No other woodpecker in America looks like this. And unlike its noisy cousins, Lewis's woodpecker doesn't drum on trees. It catches insects midair, stores nuts in bark for winter, and nests in burned-out pine forests, places where few other birds dare to live. It's not rare, but it's elusive, often passing by like a shadow with color. In a family known for head-banging and noise, the Lewis's woodpecker is calm, aerial, and almost elegant. You might not even notice it's a woodpecker at all. And maybe that's exactly what it wants. In the pale heat of a desert morning, a small bird flashes across the sky, a spark of red fire against the empty blue. This is the vermilion flycatcher, one of the most striking songbirds of the American Southwest. It's not large, it's not loud, but once you see it, you never forget it. The male is cloaked in vivid scarlet from head to belly, with sharp black wings and a jet black mask over his eyes. He looks like a flame in flight, darting from perch to perch, snapping insects mid-air with sharp turns and sudden dives. Unlike many bright birds, he doesn't live in deep forests or faraway jungles. You might find him perched on a fence post, a wire, or a sun-bleached branch, quietly watching the world go by. The female, in contrast, is soft gray and salmon-colored, subtle and elegant, and together they raise their young in open spaces, building nests in plain sight, trusting their camouflage and quiet habits. But despite living close to people, few ever notice them. Their size, their stillness, and their silence make them easy to miss, unless you're looking. The vermilion flycatcher doesn't ask to be admired. It just burns, briefly, brightly, across the American desert sky. If you're walking through a quiet forest at dusk and feel like something is watching you, it just might be this owl. Meet the long-eared owl, a silent hunter cloaked in mystery. Its name comes from the two tall feather tufts on its head, not actually ears, but they give the bird an alert, almost cat-like appearance. When it stares at you, it feels like it sees everything. With golden orange eyes, mottled camouflage, and a slim, vertical body shape, the long-eared owl is almost impossible to spot in trees. It doesn't hoot like a typical owl. Instead, it gives a low, haunting call that echoes across fields like a whisper. They're mostly nocturnal, roosting in dense branches during the day and flying out silently at night. Their wings are broad, their flight ghostly. Not a sound is made, even when passing just a few feet above your head. They nest in old crow or hawk nests and gather in winter in roosting groups, where 10, 20, even 30 owls might sit silently in a single tree. And you'd never know. Most Americans have never seen a long-eared owl. And that's exactly how the owl likes it. Hidden in plain sight. Watching. Waiting. If a parrot ever wandered into Texas and decided to stay, it might look something like this. The green jay is one of the most colorful birds in the United States, but most Americans have never even heard of it. That's because this dazzling bird only lives in a tiny region of the country, the brushlands of deep South Texas, near the Mexican border. Its feathers are like something from a painter's wildest dream. Bright emerald green along the back, a lemon yellow belly, electric blue cheeks, and bold black markings on its face and chest. In the sunlight, it doesn't just stand out, it glows. But this bird isn't just about looks. Green jays are smart, social, and surprisingly loud. They travel in tight family groups, constantly calling to each other with a series of harsh, buzzing notes. To some ears, it sounds chaotic. To them, it's conversation. They work together to watch for predators, to defend their territory, and even to help raise the young. And unlike many shy birds on this list, green jays are confident, curious, sometimes even a little bold. You might spot one raiding a backyard feeder, inspecting a hiker, or flashing across a dusty ranch trail like a living streak of color. But step outside that narrow Texas zone, and they disappear. No green jays in New York, none in Colorado, none in California. They belong to a hidden world at the southern edge of America. A tropical splash of life, hiding in plain sight. At first glance, it doesn't even look like a bird, more like a serpent rising from the swamp, watching. This is the Anhinga, sometimes called the snake bird. And once you see it hunting, you'll understand why. When it swims, only its long neck and pointed head break the surface, gliding silently through the water like a water snake. Its body stays completely submerged. No ripples, no splashes, just stillness. And then, a sudden strike. Anhingas don't hunt like other birds. They don't swoop or dive. Instead, they swim underwater, using their webbed feet and sharp beaks to spear fish with lightning speed. Their name even comes from the Tupi language of Brazil, meaning devil bird or evil spirit of the woods. And there's something ghostly about them. When they're not swimming, anhingas perch in dead trees with wings spread wide, not in display, but in necessity. Unlike ducks or herons, their feathers aren't waterproof. That helps them dive deeper. But it also means they have to dry themselves in the sun after every hunt. With long tails, dagger-like beaks, and a black and silver sheen to their wings, they look like something between a cormorant, a dragon, and a shadow. They make no song, just croaks and hisses. You'll find them in swamps, lakes, and slow-moving rivers across the southeastern U.S., especially in Florida. And when you do spot one, you'll remember it. Because the anhinga doesn't just fly or swim, it haunts the water. When the wind is calm and the sun is low, there's a bird that dances in the sky like no other. The scissor-tailed flycatcher looks ordinary at first. A pale gray body, soft peach belly, black wings. But then it takes off, and suddenly it becomes unforgettable. Streaming behind it are two impossibly long tail feathers, thin, black, and crossed like scissors in midair. These tails can be twice the length of the bird's body, opening and closing with every turn like a ribbon in flight. This bird doesn't just fly, it performs. Native to the wide-open plains of the American Midwest and South, the scissor-tailed flycatcher uses its acrobatics for both hunting and showing off. It twists and flips in the air, catching insects on the wing with precision and grace. Males perform high, sweeping flights to impress females, fluttering and flaring their tails like streamers in the sky. They prefer open areas, fence lines, telephone wires, ranch fields. You might drive right past one without realizing it's a world-class aerial dancer. Even its call is unique, a crisp, mechanical chatter that echoes faintly across the grasslands. In Oklahoma, it's more than just admired, it's honored. The scissor-tailed flycatcher is the official state bird, a symbol of elegance, freedom, and flight. And once you've seen it glide across an open sky, those twin feathers trailing like ribbons in the wind, you'll understand why. It's a woodpecker, but it doesn't always act like one. The northern flicker is one of the most unusual members of the woodpecker family, not just because of how it looks, but how it lives. First, the appearance. A soft brown body covered in black spots, a red crescent on the back of the head, and, depending on where you are, bright yellow or red underwings that flash when it flies. No two flickers look exactly the same. In fact, eastern and western birds have different colors entirely, like regional variations of a painting. But the real surprise? This woodpecker prefers the ground. While others spend their days climbing trees and drilling bark, the northern flicker is often seen hopping through the grass, digging for ants and beetles with its curved bill. It's one of the only woodpeckers in North America that feeds this way. When it does fly, it rises in a swooping pattern, each wing beat lifting it like a wave. And when it calls, you'll know. A loud, rhythmic, clear, clear, clear echoes through the trees like laughter from the forest. You might find one in a city park, a backyard, or deep in the woods. It's adaptable, curious, and often surprisingly unafraid of people. The northern flicker doesn't need to hammer to be heard. It finds its own way. 1 foot on the ground, 1 wing in the air. In the golden light of late spring, something catches your eye. A bird so sharply colored, it looks almost artificial. Meet the yellow-headed blackbird, a species that defies expectation at every turn. Its body is pitch black, like ink, but its head is a blazing yellow gold, as if dipped in sunlight. The contrast is so bold, so graphic, that it almost looks like 2 birds stitched together. You'll find them not in forests or suburbs, but in wide-open prairie wetlands, places filled with cattails, shallow lakes, and singing frogs. They nest in colonies, weaving their homes into tall marsh plants, close to the water, and always in numbers. But what really sets them apart is the voice. Unlike the sweet melodies of robins or the flutes of thrushes, the yellow-headed blackbird lets out a call that's been described as everything from a rusty gate to a robot coughing. It's a rasping, metallic screech. Strange, jarring, and completely unforgettable. And yet, within the chaos of that sound, there's something oddly beautiful. During breeding season, males display proudly, puffing out their chests, spreading their wings, and belting out that alien cry to claim space and impress females. It may not be pretty, but it's powerful. For many, it's the voice of the prairie spring. The yellow-headed blackbird may not sing sweetly, but it sings like it belongs, bold, loud, and proud of every strange note. Some birds shout for attention, others whisper their beauty. The cedar waxwing is one of nature's most elegant creations. Soft, silent, and perfectly dressed. Its feathers look more like velvet than plumage. Smooth tan fades into soft gray, then to a pale lemon-yellow tail tip, as if dipped in sunlight. A black mask stretches across its eyes like a bandit, and on the wings, tiny red droplets shine like sealing wax. That's where the name comes from. But this bird isn't just about beauty, it's about grace. Cedar waxwings move in quiet flocks, feeding almost exclusively on fruit. They glide between berry-laden branches, passing fruit to each other, literally beak to beak, in one of the most gentle courtship rituals in the bird world. Their call is a whisper, a high, thin trill, barely louder than the wind in the leaves. You often hear them before you ever spot them, like a secret breeze among the trees. They're common, yes, found across much of the United States, but rarely noticed, because they never demand your attention. They simply exist with elegance, blending into the calm, offering beauty to those who slow down enough to see it. And in a world that's always rushing, the cedar waxwing is a soft reminder. Not all beauty needs to be loud. We've just explored 10 birds that dazzle the eye, from velvet-soft waxwings to glowing desert flames. But beauty is only part of the story, because some birds don't need bright colors to be unforgettable. Some amaze us with how they act. They sing like no other. They dance in the dark. They pretend to be injured, or hunt like silent assassins. Their feathers may be plain, but their behaviors are anything but. Welcome to Section 2. Unbelievable behaviors, where nature gets creative. And just a little bit weird. It's the middle of the night. The field is silent. The trees are still. And then, something rises into the air, spiraling upward like smoke. This is the American woodcock, one of the strangest, most secretive birds in North America. By day, it hides on the forest floor, nearly invisible with its leaf-patterned feathers. But at twilight, it transforms. Each spring, the male performs what's called the sky dance. He begins with a series of nasal peent calls from the ground. Short, flat, nothing fancy. Then suddenly, lift off. He launches into the air in a tight spiral, rising higher and higher. As he climbs, his wings begin to whistle, not from his voice, but from the shape of his feathers. It's eerie, unnatural, a shimmering trill that sounds like wind through wire. At the peak, sometimes over 200 feet in the air, he zigzags, stalls, and then drops like a falling leaf, landing back in the same spot. Then, he starts again, over and over, for hours. And here's the twist. Most people have never seen it, because it only happens at dusk for a few weeks each year. No stage, no spotlight, just an open field, a hidden rhythm, and a dance as old as the woods. The American woodcock doesn't dazzle with color, but when he dances, the forest listens. Some birds fly, some singing. Some migrate thousands of miles every year. But this one goes still, completely still. Meet the common poorwill, the only bird in North America known to hibernate. Yes, hibernate, like a bear. While most birds flee the cold, the poorwill stays. When temperatures drop and insects vanish, it finds a quiet crack in a rock, lowers its heart rate, slows its breathing, and slips into a deep, motionless state called torpor. Sometimes for weeks, even months. No movement, no sound, just stillness, waiting for spring. It's a small bird, plump-bodied, big-eyed, cloaked in gray and brown like desert dust. By day, it's almost impossible to spot. By night, it becomes active, fluttering low over the ground, catching moths and beetles in complete silence. Its name comes from the soft, haunting call it makes. Poor Will, poor Will, echoing across the dry landscape like a lullaby. Native peoples of the Southwest knew of its winter sleep long before science caught up. The Hopi called it the sleeping one. Early naturalists thought it was a myth, until they found one, frozen but alive, breathing just once every few minutes. It doesn't look extraordinary. It doesn't act like a predator. But beneath its plain feathers lies a survival trick few birds, or humans, could ever manage. The common poorwill doesn't run from winter. It simply disappears into it. At first glance, it looks harmless. A gray and white songbird with a black mask. Small, innocent, perched quietly on a bare branch. But look closer. The northern shrike is one of the most unexpected predators in the bird world. A hunter with the habits of a psychopath. Unlike hawks or owls, it has no sharp talons, no powerful grip. What it has instead is a terrifying workaround. When it catches prey, a mouse, a grasshopper, sometimes even another bird, the shrike impales it. On thorns, on barbed wire, on sharp twigs or cactus spines. It stabs the body into place, then tears it apart with its curved, hook-like beak. In science, this behavior is called lardering, a way to store food for later. But to human eyes, it looks like something from a horror film. Skewered frogs, hanging insects, tiny bodies left dangling on fences. It's brutal, efficient, and strangely methodical. The shrike sings sweetly while it does it, a soft, warbling tune, layered over violence. It's a winter visitor to much of the northern U.S., arriving when the air turns cold and quiet. It perches high, still and sharp-eyed, waiting, watching. Then it strikes. The northern shrike is a reminder that in nature, appearances deceive. Not every killer wears claws. Sometimes death comes wearing feathers and a song. Sometimes, to protect the ones you love, you have to become the distraction. The killdeer is a slim, long-legged plover, brown and white, with two bold black bands across its chest, and a sharp, urgent call that echoes, "Killdeer, killdeer." It nests on the ground, not in trees, not in tall grass, but on bare gravel, dirt patches, even parking lots, out in the open, exposed. That sounds like a terrible idea, until you see what this bird can do. When a predator, a raccoon, a fox, a curious human comes near the nest, the killdeer doesn't fly away. It runs toward the danger. Then it begins to act. It limps. It stumbles. It flutters along the ground, dragging one wing as if broken, crying out in distress. It looks helpless, easy prey, but it's not. It's performing. And when the intruder follows, drawn away from the vulnerable eggs or chicks, the bird suddenly takes off, healthy and strong, leaving the confused predator far from the nest. It's one of the most well-known examples of broken wing display in the animal kingdom, and one of the most selfless. The killdeer doesn't have sharp talons or venom. It has courage and instinct, and a little bit of theater. High in the rugged Rockies, where snow can fall in September and winter can last 6 months, survival is a game of memory. Enter the Clark's nutcracker, a bird with one of the most impressive minds in the entire animal kingdom. This pale gray corvid, related to crows and jays, makes its home in high mountain pine forests. In late summer and fall, when whitebark pine trees release their seeds, the nutcracker goes to work. And it doesn't just eat them, it hides them. One by one, it gathers pine seeds in a pouch beneath its tongue, then flies miles away to bury them, under rocks, in crevices, beneath snow and soil. Over the course of a season, a single bird may store up to 30,000 seeds in thousands of different hiding spots. And here's the miracle. Months later, often in the middle of a blizzard, the nutcracker finds them again. Not with smell, not with luck, but with memory. Using landmarks, angles of slope, even the position of the sun, it recalls where it buried food across a landscape buried under snow. Some caches it never retrieves, and those seeds become future trees. In a way, this bird is not just surviving in the mountains, it's planting the future. The Clark's nutcracker is a quiet genius, hiding treasures in the earth and unlocking them with a map only it can see. In the stillness of a summer night, when the wind dies and the trees stop moving, a sound begins. Whip poor will, whip poor will, whip poor will. Soft, haunting, endless. This is the eastern whippoorwill, a bird almost never seen, but never forgotten, once heard. Named after its call, which it repeats hundreds, sometimes thousands of times in a single evening. It doesn't sing to impress, it sings to claim the night. Whippoorwills are part of the nightjar family, masters of camouflage, with feathers the color of fallen leaves. During the day, they sleep silently on the forest floor or along shaded branches, completely invisible. You could walk past one and never know it. But when darkness falls, they awaken. They feed entirely on moths and insects, caught mid-air in total darkness. No radar, no light, just silent wings and a wide mouth like a net. In some rural towns, the call of the whippoorwill was once used to tell time. People knew it was midnight when the chant hadn't stopped. In folklore, it was seen as a spirit bird, calling souls to the beyond. Even today, their song carries something otherworldly. You rarely see them. You can't follow them. But once their voice enters the night, it never really leaves. The whippoorwill doesn't need the daylight. It belongs to the dark. Not all owls live in trees. Some prefer underground. The burrowing owl breaks nearly every rule you think you know about owls. It's small, barely the size of a soda can. It's active during the day. And instead of perching high in a tree, it lives in tunnels. Yes, it actually lives in burrows, often ones dug by prairie dogs or ground squirrels. And when none are available, it digs its own. Imagine a fluffy owl standing upright like a meerkat, blinking in the daylight, perched at the entrance of its underground home. That's the burrowing owl, curious, quirky, and completely unexpected. It often stands guard, bobbing its head rapidly when alarmed, and lets out a warning call that sounds like a rattlesnake, a perfect trick to scare off intruders. But the surprises don't stop there. Burrowing owls have been known to place animal dung near their burrows, not as trash, but as bait. It attracts insects like beetles, which they then feast on. Smart, right? They're also surprisingly social, sometimes forming colonies with other owls, or even sharing territory with prairie dogs, forming one of the strangest roommate situations in the animal kingdom. Cute? Yes. But beneath those yellow eyes is a clever little survivalist. The burrowing owl isn't just living underground. It's thriving there, with wit, charm, and a few tricks up its tiny feathered sleeve. Sometimes, you hear the rain before it falls. Not in the wind, not in the thunder, but in the voice of a bird. This is the yellow-billed cuckoo, known across generations as the rain crow. Slender, shy, and draped in soft brown and white, this bird hides among the leaves, barely making a sound, until the sky begins to change. Its call is low and throaty, a hollow, rhythmic ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-cow-cow-cow. And old-timers say, when the cuckoo calls, rain is coming. And strangely, they're often right. The yellow-billed cuckoo is more active before storms, perhaps sensing shifts in air pressure or humidity. It feeds on caterpillars and insects that often emerge before rainfall. So when the bird sings, it's reading the signs of nature. It's a bird of secrets, rarely seen, often heard. It nests quietly in thick branches, raises its young fast, just 17 days from egg to flight, and then vanishes again into the green. Unlike its old-world cousins, the yellow-billed cuckoo doesn't lay eggs in other birds' nests. It raises its own. It keeps to itself. But its presence has rippled through time, in southern folk songs, in farmers' tales, in weather wisdom whispered from one generation to the next. The yellow-billed cuckoo doesn't bring the rain. It just knows when it's coming. And in that voice, the forest listens. It looks like a harmless songbird, round, gray, the size of a robin. But don't be fooled. The loggerhead shrike is a predator, cold, efficient, and deadly. Like its northern cousin, the northern shrike, this bird has no talons, no claws to grip or tear. But it doesn't need them. Instead, it uses its environment, turning barbed wire, thorns, and sharp twigs into weapons. When it catches prey, lizards, mice, grasshoppers, even small birds, the loggerhead shrike impales them. It skewers bodies onto sharp branches, storing food for later, like a grim trophy rack. It can decapitate a grasshopper mid-air, break the spine of a mouse with one bite, and then calmly perch above its prey, looking down with a black mask stretched across its face, like a villain in miniature. Its name, loggerhead, comes from its unusually large head, packed with muscle and bite force. Don't let the size fool you. This bird has a stronger beak-to-body ratio than many raptors, and unlike most hunters, it sings sweetly, constantly. You'll hear a melodic whistle, see a flutter of gray wings, and not realize you're standing near one of nature's most efficient killers. It nests low, perches high, and waits silently over open fields, hunting not with power, but with precision. The loggerhead shrike is proof that danger doesn't always come with talons. Sometimes, it wears a song and a smile. Imagine a bird the size of a chicken, wearing a feathered cloak, puffing its chest, and making noises like a coffee percolator. Now imagine hundreds of them, doing it at once. Welcome to the world of the greater sage grouse, where courtship is performance, and the stakes are high. Every spring, before the sun rises, males gather on leks, traditional display grounds on wide-open sagebrush plains. There, they compete for the attention of watching females in a ritual that's as bizarre as it is unforgettable. Here's how it works. The male fans out his spiky tail feathers like a turkey. He raises 2 white, balloon-like air sacs from his chest, yes, inflatable sacs, and begins a rhythmic display. Strut, population swish, bounce, repeat. Each pop comes from the air sacs, which inflate and collapse with comic timing. The sound is a mix between a bloop, a whistle, and a bass thump. Part cartoon, part alien signal. He performs over and over, sometimes for hours, hoping to win the favor of a single female. Most males go home empty-handed. A few get everything. It's one of the most elaborate courtship displays in the bird world. Bold, strange, even a little ridiculous, but completely natural. And it's vanishing. Greater sage grouse depend on vast, healthy sagebrush habitats, landscapes that are disappearing fast. But while they remain, these birds will keep dancing. Because in their world, love is loud, and feathers speak louder than words. Some birds dazzle with color, others with behavior. But the rarest ones, they impress simply by being hard to find. They don't live everywhere. Some exist only in one forest, one mountain, one tiny slice of land. And if that land disappears, so do they. These are the rare gems of American bird life. The ones most people will never see in person. Not because they're hiding, but because they belong to places most of us will never go. This is Section 3. Rare Gems and Regional Mysteries. A journey into the forgotten corners of the United States, where the birds are few, but the wonder runs deep. It was once thought to be slipping away forever. The Kirtland's warbler is one of the rarest songbirds in North America, and one of the most geographically picky. This tiny yellow and gray warbler only nests in a very specific type of habitat. Young jack pine forests, between 5 to 20 years old, with just the right spacing, just the right height, and only in northern Michigan. If the trees get too old, the bird leaves. Too few trees? It doesn't nest at all. For decades, its population plummeted. By 1974, there were fewer than 200 singing males left on Earth. But something extraordinary happened. Biologists, foresters, and conservationists came together, planting jack pines, controlling cowbirds that parasitized its nests, and protecting land not just for people, but for a single species of bird. And it worked. Today, Kirtland's warbler numbers have rebounded into the thousands. Still rare, still delicate, but no longer on the edge. It winters in the Bahamas, lives only a few months in Michigan, and flies hundreds of miles each year to return to the exact kind of forest it needs. You won't stumble upon it by accident. You have to go looking, and even then, you'll need patience and luck. But when you do find one, singing from a jack pine branch, you'll know you're witnessing a small miracle. Because the Kirtland's warbler doesn't just survive. It reminds us what can happen when we choose to care. In a forest of 1,000 trees, this bird will only choose one. The red-cockaded woodpecker is small, black and white, with a neat ladder-like back and a subtle splash of red behind the eye. Visible only on males, and only when they choose to show it. But what truly sets this bird apart is where it lives. Unlike other woodpeckers that peck into soft, rotting wood, the red-cockaded insists on something much harder. Living, old-growth longleaf pines, trees that are at least 80 years old, sometimes over 100. It drills its cavity high into the trunk, then surrounds the hole with small sap wells, causing sticky resin to flow down the bark. That sap keeps tree-climbing predators like snakes away. It's nature's version of barbed wire. But here's the challenge. Longleaf pine forests, once covering 90 million acres of the American Southeast, have been reduced to less than 3% of their original range. And when the trees go, so does the bird. The red-cockaded woodpecker became one of the first species ever protected under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. For decades, scientists have climbed trees, banded chicks, burned land to restore fire-dependent pine savannas, all to keep this bird from vanishing. And slowly, it's working. Families of red-cockaded woodpeckers are returning, drumming in trees that once stood silent, choosing old trunks and bringing new life to old woods. This bird doesn't adapt to the world around it. It waits for the world it needs and teaches us how to rebuild it. Some birds live in forests, some in mountains. Some live in the in-between. Meet the California thrasher, a long-tailed, secretive bird with a curved beak like a scythe and a voice that echoes through the tangled brush of coastal California. It's not brightly colored. A soft brown body, dark wings, a hint of warm rust on the belly. But it carries something else, a song. Not just a few chirps, not a short whistle. A full performance, flute-like phrases, mimicry, warbles, whistles, delivered in long, expressive solos from deep inside the chaparral, dry, scrubby hillsides where few birds dare linger for long. The California thrasher is a specialist, living almost entirely within this unique biome. It rarely flies high. It prefers to run, weaving between thorns and sagebrush, tail held high like a balance pole. You're far more likely to hear one than to see one. It's territorial, passionate, and persistent. A singer with no stage, a shadow with a spotlight of sound, and it almost never leaves home. The species is found only in California, making it a true regional rarity and a silent ambassador of a fragile landscape under growing pressure from wildfires, development, and drought. To find a California thrasher, you don't need a plane ticket or a mountain trek. Just a quiet morning, a bit of patience, and an ear tuned to melody hiding in the thorn. You're standing in the middle of an open prairie. The sky is blue. The wind is still. The land is empty. And then, you hear singing. But no trees, no wires, no birds in sight. Look up. That voice, clear, floating, unbroken, is coming from the sky. This is the Sprague's pipit, one of the only songbirds in North America that sings almost exclusively in flight. The bird itself is small, pale, and plain, a sandy speck with streaks of brown and white. On the ground, it blends into dry grass so well that most people will never notice it. But in the breeding season, males take to the air and don't come down. They launch into the sky, circling up to 100 meters above the ground, and sing for 10, 20, even 30 minutes straight. A delicate, tinkling melody repeated again and again, pouring down from the clouds like birdsong rain. They sing not to be seen, but to claim their space, to say, "This field is mine." And then, they vanish back into the grass. Sprague's pipits are native to the Great Plains, wide, flat, grassy spaces that stretch for miles. But that habitat is vanishing, replaced by farms, roads, subdivisions. And when the grass goes, so does the song. Today their numbers are dropping, not with a scream, but with the fading echo of a sky that once sang. The Sprague's pipit is not easy to find, but when you do, you don't see it. You listen. Where the air is thin, the wind never stops, and snow can fall in June. A small shadow moves between the rocks. This is the black rosy finch, a bird of altitude and isolation, found almost exclusively on the windswept peaks of the American West. It's one of the highest elevation breeding birds in North America, While others seek forests, wetlands, or valleys, this one seeks the sky. Cloaked in soot-black feathers tinged with dusky pink on the wings and belly, the black rosy finch is both beautiful and bleak. It looks like a bird carved from dusk and dipped in rose. But don't let the color fool you. This is a survivor. It nests in rock crevices, tucked between snowdrifts and lichen-covered stone. Its eggs endure freezing nights. Its chicks are raised in thin air. It feeds on seeds blown by the mountain wind and insects scraped from bare tundra. Few people have ever seen one in the wild, not because they're shy, but because they live where few people go. In winter, some drift down into lower elevations, but even then, they prefer the remote, the rugged, the wind-swept empty places. For researchers, it's a challenge. For birdwatchers, it's a dream. For the mountain, it's a whisper of life in a world made of stone. The black rosy finch reminds us that beauty can exist where almost nothing else can. Not by resisting the harshness, but by embracing it. You walk through the forest. The trees are tall, the grass is thick, the ground is still. Then suddenly, a song. Clear, sweet, rising like a question and falling like a sigh. You stop. You listen. You look around, but you see nothing. That's exactly how the Bachman sparrow prefers it. This bird is a ghost of the grass and pine, a master of staying unseen. Soft brown with faint streaks, it disappears into the forest floor like a shadow into dusk. It doesn't fly far. It doesn't perch high. It stays low in tangled undergrowth, moving silently from cover to cover. But when it sings, it becomes something else. The male's song is one of the most beautiful in the American South. A single, pure whistle, followed by a series of trills. Delicate, emotional, easy to miss, but impossible to forget. It sings not from treetops, but from small shrubs, or even the ground itself. A song that rises from below. Bachman's sparrow once ranged across the southeast, but now it's declining. Fire suppression, habitat loss, and thickening forests have pushed it into smaller and smaller patches of suitable land. To find one, you don't need a mountain or a swamp, just the right field at the right time, and the patience to let the forest speak. Because the Bachman sparrow won't come to you. You have to wait for it and listen. In a world where birds fly freely across continents, this one never leaves home. The Florida scrub jay is the only bird species found nowhere else but the state of Florida. Not just native, exclusive. A true local. It lives in scrub habitat, dry, sandy regions filled with dwarf oaks and palmettos. These landscapes look barren to most people. But to the scrub jay, they're family land. And family is the key word. Unlike most jays, this bird is cooperative. Young birds often stay with their parents for years, helping raise siblings, defending territory, and standing guard from tree stumps and low branches. One family, one plot of land, year after year. They're curious, confident, sometimes even bold. People who visit scrub jay preserves and wait quietly with an open hand have been known to earn a moment of magic. A Florida scrub jay landing gently on their fingers, cocking its head, unafraid. But behind that friendly charm lies danger. The scrub habitat they need has been disappearing for decades, cleared for houses, roads, citrus groves. This bird's entire range now fits inside a dot on the map. And as the scrub vanishes, so does the jay. It doesn't migrate. It doesn't adapt easily. It stays rooted to a place that's slipping away. The Florida scrub jay is more than just a rare bird. It's a reminder that loyalty to land comes with a cost. Some birds demand your attention with sound or spectacle. Others just appear like a secret, if you're lucky enough to notice. The blue grosbeak is one of those birds. From a distance, it might look like just another songbird perched on a wire. But step closer, and it becomes something unforgettable. The male is cloaked in deep, rich blue, darker than sky, shimmering like ink. Subtle chestnut bars cross his wings, and his massive silver-gray beak gives him a striking profile, elegant and strong at once. But for a bird so beautiful, the blue grosbeak is remarkably quiet. It lives along hedgerows, field edges, overgrown fence lines, often near farmland or abandoned lots. It sings a sweet, warbling melody from low branches, rarely rising into view. Unlike its brighter cousin, the indigo bunting, the blue grosbeak prefers privacy. It doesn't gather in flocks. It doesn't visit feeders often. It builds its nest deep in cover, raises young in secret, and then vanishes between the leaves. Even lifelong birders sometimes go years without seeing one. It migrates long distances, from the southern U.S. all the way to Central America. But wherever it goes, it remains a bird of quiet presence. It doesn't flash. It doesn't shout. It simply waits for the right eyes to find it. The blue grosbeak is a reminder that some of the rarest gems in nature don't hide far away. They hide in silence, just outside your window. Sometimes, a bird doesn't need a song, or a dance, or a story. It just needs to fly through sunlight, and the rest is magic. The mountain bluebird is one of the most breathtaking sights in the American West. Draped in pure sky blue feathers, with no patterns, no contrast, just blue. Deep and glowing on the back, pale and soft on the belly. Like a piece of the sky decided to fly. It lives high, in the meadows, foothills, and open fields of western mountains. You'll find it perched alone on a fence post, a tall weed, or a bare branch, scanning the grasses below for insects. It hovers like a hummingbird when hunting, then drops silently to the ground, catching prey with gentle precision. Despite its beauty, the mountain bluebird is a bird of solitude. It travels in small groups. It doesn't crowd feeders. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply exists, in silence and in wind. It nests in old woodpecker holes, fence posts, or nest boxes put up by those who care enough to welcome it. And every spring, when snow melts from the mountains, the bluebirds return, as if carried by the thaw. They don't ask for much, just space, just sky, just a place where blue still means something. The mountain bluebird is more than just a color. It's a feeling of freedom, of clarity, of home. There are birds that live in forests, birds of deserts, of mountains. And then, there are the ones that live where almost nothing lives at all. Meet the Ivory Gull, a ghost of the ice. This bird is found farther north than almost any other, near the edges of Arctic sea ice, following polar bears, feeding on scraps in the snow, and nesting on remote cliffs in the high Canadian north. It is rarely seen, even more rarely photographed, and in the United States, almost never. But on occasion, maybe once a decade, an ivory gull strays south, drifting down to the northern coast of Alaska or into the Great Lakes during a hard winter. For birders, these sightings are like winning the lottery, completely white. No streaks, no contrast, just pure snow from beak to tail, with dark eyes that seem to float in the cold. Unlike other gulls, it doesn't scream or scavenge aggressively. It's quiet, controlled, watching, waiting. It follows polar bears for food. It endures minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures. And it breeds in some of the harshest, most remote places on Earth. To many, the ivory gull is more than a rare bird. It's a symbol of wilderness, of fragility, of things most of us will never touch. And as the sea ice melts, its world shrinks, not with a sound, but with silence. The ivory gull isn't just hard to find. It belongs to a world we are slowly losing. If you've made it this far, thank you. And if you've felt even a flicker of wonder along the way, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who loves the quiet beauty of the wild. And if we missed a bird, a rare gem hidden in your part of the country, tell us in the comments below. We're always listening, always learning, always exploring. Because the truth is, there are still birds out there, in forgotten forests, in corners of cornfields, on distant ridgelines, that most of the world has never seen. Some will live and die without ever being named. Others are already gone. But some, if you're lucky, you might catch a glimpse of. Like a blue shadow flashing across a canyon. Like a tiny heartbeat in a thorn bush. Like a single note of music floating through falling snow. There's a story told by a farmer in Montana about a bird that came every April without fail. Blue as a bottle, silent as dawn. He said it would land on the same fence post, look toward the same tree line, stay for 20 minutes, then vanish.
Breathe out.
Every year, until one spring, it didn't come. He waited anyway. And then,